Guys, the trailer for The Little Mermaid is finally here! I know. I couldn't keep a straight face either. We're never gonna see that trailer. But there is a new trailer for the Haunted Mansion movie. Welcome to Teacup for One. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees, and that's right, friends, we finally have a trailer for the brand new Haunted Mansion film. The second Haunted Mansion film. Third, if you count Muppets Haunted Mansion. Now, I wasn't even sure I was going to do a trailer video or analysis for this because it was just the teaser trailer, but oh my gosh! They gave us, like, a full-out trailer for the movie. I think teaser trailer, I think of what D23 gave us for Little Mermaid last year, like just 1 or 2 shots and then Halle Bailey singing Part of Your World, or like in this case I thought they would show us a mansion, a ghost, and then we'd hear like grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize, and then maybe like a shot of a door closing, but no! They gave us looks at all the key players, they gave us looks at some of the main ghosts, and this, if this is the teaser trailer, I can only imagine how good the real trailer is going to be, let alone the whole damn movie. So without further ado, we're going to dive into another Teacup for One trailer analysis. You know, it feels like I only do 1 or 2 of these a year, and yet here I am doing 2 trailer analysis videos in a row? Like, Disney, you're spoiling us with trailer welts, except for Little Mermaid. I want to see that Little Mermaid trailer. But until then, I'll accept this. Okay, let's watch.
Welcome home. I know.
Okay. I know, I'm sorry. If this is your first time watching one of these Matt reviews of trailer videos, there's going to be a lot of stopping and starting, especially in this trailer, because like I said, shocker for a teaser trailer, there's so much packed into this. We're only, what, 6 seconds in? You know how I could tell this is going to be a superior movie to the Eddie Murphy movie? And I'm going to do my best to not draw comparisons, but you know how you could tell that this is going to be a better Haunted Mansion movie than the Eddie Murphy movie? Because they picked a mansion. That was one of the things that was way off the mark with that Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion movie. They kind of smushed together Disneyland's Haunted Mansion and Magic Kingdom's Haunted Mansion to just create this kind of blah, nothing mansion. But like, this is the thing. The Haunted Mansion is so much about the structure, the building, and not just the building, but the locale. Like, it's a haunted house story. Haunted houses have everything to do with, like, the history of a place. Disneyland's Haunted Mansion famously takes place in New Orleans. Magic Kingdom's Haunted Mansion famously takes place in, like, New England. Yes, the interior is very much the same, but they fully recontextualize both of those attractions based on where in the world they're supposed to take place. So, just seeing that they fully went and committed to the exterior of Disneyland's Haunted Mansion here, you know, the same one that this Funko Pop represents, it gives me so much joy. I just feel like everything is more at home in New Orleans. So, trailer, you're off to a good start just by showing me the exterior of the right mansion. You made the right choice, Disney. Let's keep watching.
I know this place isn't as warm as I'd hoped, but I'm going to light a vanilla candle, and it's going to be a game changer. Will it though?
Oh my gosh, just a few more seconds in and already they've given us so much. There's 3 key things that we need to break down about those few seconds. First of all, we got our first look at Rosario Dawson's character. She's playing Gabby. We don't know much about her, or about any of these characters really, because what I love is that most of the leading players are all completely original characters who are encountering the ghosts that we all know and love from Disney's ride. So it's almost like they are us. They are us going through the Haunted Mansion. So, Rosario Dawson is playing Gabby. What do we know about Gabby? She is a single mom who is moving her and her son to this giant mansion. And like, my biggest unanswered question is, how are you affording a house that's this big? To be fair, I do live in Canada, specifically Southern Ontario, where real estate is completely through the roof. I'm not joking. Like, there have been articles that have said you can buy this castle in Scotland for the same price as a condo in Toronto and the surrounding area. So like, my perception of what real estate's going for is not quite the same as what you can get anywhere, quite literally, in the United States. So it's entirely possible that she's buying this mansion with the same budget that she could get a condo in Toronto. I'm going off on a tangent. Anyway, Rosario Dawson is playing a single mom with her son moving into the mansion. Obviously, there are all sorts of different circumstances that can lead to single parenthood, but just because we're dealing with a film, I feel like we have one of two options here. Either she's a recent divorcee, or she is a recent widow. Because this is a movie literally all about ghosts and the afterlife, I'm gonna like put my money on the fact that she is a recently widowed single mother who's trying to rebuild her life with her son. That is a beautiful setup for a haunted mansion movie. Next up, we saw this terrifying portrait of a bride. We are going to dive into what that means and who that is a little bit later in the video because there's a lot to discuss there. But what I want to discuss right now is the kid. Apparently, the character's name is Travis, and he's played by actor Chase W. Dillon, and I'm just gonna say it, I think he's my favorite character in this entire movie. I know we're only a couple seconds in, but like, I've watched the whole trailer. This is a stellar ensemble, but I can tell that kid is gonna steal the show just from his delivery with like, will it though? There is so much honesty in that performance, so much terror, and it's just so endearing. It's like, Haunted Mansion, this is something I'm going to discuss probably more than once in this video. The thing that makes the ride so good, but also the thing that made it so challenging to get up on its feet, was finding the perfect balance between scary and funny. And I'm not exactly sure what the secret formula to pulling that off is, but whatever it is, this kid has nailed it. Because I feel his terror, but I'm also laughing at him in the most loving way possible. Like, I adore it. And I think it's also just so refreshing thinking back to the kids in the Eddie Murphy movie. Now, this is nothing against the actors, because the actors, I thought, did a great job with the material that they were given, but I felt like those kids, like the characters, were written in such a underdeveloped way. Like, it felt like the way that kids are written in ABC and or CW sitcoms. It was just like, you have the kid who's scared of everything, and the movie is about him having to overcome his fears. Like, we're in a literal haunted mansion. This is not the place for the kid to work out his fear issues. So anyway, the way that this character is written seemingly feels better than the way the kids were written in the first movie, and the actor is just chef's kiss. Love it. Let's watch on.
Will it though? We're out.
Again, I know, I'm sorry, just a few seconds, but oh my freaking gosh! They are not sanitizing the scary level in this movie whatsoever. That freaking ghost bride did the ghost face thing where it's like, it did that thing, it did the ghost twitch thing, like something that I'm used to only seeing in trailers for movies that are far too scary for me to see. They went there. And the other thing is that the suit of armor is chasing them. This is why I love that. The suits of armor are such an iconic, famous part of the Haunted Mansion ride. And the first time I went on that ride, as an adult, because I was too scared to ride it as a kid, the first time I went on that ride as an adult, anytime we passed a suit of armor, I was low-key terrified that one of them would have an actual human actor inside of it that was like going to reach for me in my doom buggy. Obviously, it didn't happen, but I feel like that's kind of an anxiety that you just consciously or subconsciously have when you're riding the ride, and they never actually move. But we're just a few seconds into the trailer for the Haunted Mansion movie, and that suit of armor is fully bolting to chase them, to grab them for who knows what nefarious purpose. So the reason I love that is because it's giving us something that's familiar to the ride, but also subverting the expectations. Everything that we think we know about the ride, everything that we think is safe, absolutely is not. And that is the way that you approach a Haunted Mansion movie. Let's watch more.
This mansion is unhinged. She needs all the help she can get. You want to be a hero?
All right. I'm telling you, they're packing so much into every millisecond that was, again, less than 3 seconds, but still so much that we have to look at. So let's break down everyone that we just saw, because those few seconds were a total who's who of this cast. First, we have that terrifying silhouette of a ghost in a top hat, much like the bride in that former sequence. We're just going to put a pin in that for a second. We'll talk about that ghost in a little bit. Let's talk about the living human characters and their respective performers that we just saw, starting with Owen Wilson. Wow. Did I do that right? Owen Wilson is playing a character named Father Kent, who is apparently recruited or hired, I'm not sure how it works, by Rosario Dawson's character to perform an exorcism on the Haunted Mansion, and then he, in turn, recruits an entire team of people to help him. First, we have Tiffany Haddish as Harriet, who is a French Quarter psychic. Next, we have the legend himself, Danny DeVito, as Professor Bruce Davis, a historian who specializes in southern mansions. And then finally, we have LaKeith Stanfield as Ben, a character who, according to Google, is a widowed scientist turned paranormal expert. So just looking at this cast of characters, we are getting something fascinating because we have a group of people that are sort of bringing every possible perspective to hauntings to the seance table. So we have a priest who's giving us that religious perspective, a psychic who's giving us the spiritualist perspective, a professor who's probably going to be the skeptic, and then a scientist turned paranormal investigator who's going to give that more ghost-bustery scientific perspective, trying to use science and technology and logical thinking to explain the otherwise unexplainable. So, narratively, I think that's brilliant. And just in terms of casting, this is such a good collection of people. We have so much variation in the types of performers. We have comedians, we have Academy Award nominated actors, and we have a comedian who's also an Academy Award nominated actor. That's the king, Danny DeVito. We love him. Out of all of these characters, I think it's pretty clear that Ben is going to be the one that turns out to be our hero, and here's why.
You want to be a hero? Pass. $2,000.
What's the address?
Okay, obviously he's a reluctant hero because Owen Wilson outright says, "Do you want to be a hero?" And he says pass, so he's reluctant. But then he signs on when he finds out the amount of money. So this is just like the classic story of somebody who doesn't want to go on the adventure, but then he just does it because of monetary gain. And then undoubtedly, somewhere along the line, he's going to become invested in his fellow like ghost hunters and probably in the family, and then he's going to rise to the occasion and be a hero. And if what Google said is true, and his character is in fact a widower who turned away from science and towards paranormal investigation, I feel like all that fits together perfectly because he probably couldn't find his wife through his paranormal research, so then he just lost interest in it, but he needs money. So he's going to dive back into the world of ghosts, and along the way he's probably going to make peace and cope with the loss of his wife, and then potentially like begin to heal and move on, and he's probably going to become like a surrogate father to Travis, and he's probably going to end up with Rosario Dawson. That's my prediction. Let's watch on. I'm gonna move into a house without windows.
Guys, little help? You know what I just saw that?
I tried to sing along, but I just discovered this song. Oh, okay. So again, a lot to unpack in this sequence. I think the editing for this sequence for the purposes of a trailer is brilliant. It's creating visual tension, it's giving us this sense of foreboding and isolation, it's drawing attention to the Haunted Mansion wallpaper, which, if you're doing a Haunted Mansion movie and you don't give the wallpaper its due, the Disney fans are going to come for you, and so they're giving respect to the wallpaper where it's well deserved. But let's talk about the choice of song. Now, I had never heard Roy Orbison's House Without Windows before this trailer. I gave it a listen, and I am just in awe of how perfect a song it is for the Haunted Mansion film. I mean, just listen to these lyrics. I'm gonna move into a house without windows. Very reminiscent of The Stretching Room. You know, the famous, "This room has no windows and no doors," obviously. So, I'm gonna move into a house without windows so I won't see you walking by with your new love. And that comes back. There in the darkness of my house without windows, I will never see the stars that shine on you and your new love. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to dive into that subtext. The song is very clearly about somebody who is a scorned or a hurt lover who's locking themselves up in a house because the person that they were in love with left them for somebody new. And this is the first indication to me that my speculation like 2 years ago was right, and that this entire movie is about the haunting of Constance Hatchaway. For those who don't know, Disney's Haunted Mansion ride has always had some form of a ghost bride. Constance Hatchaway is the most recent incarnation of that character in the ride's canon. She is a Black Widow axe-murdering bride who killed her way through 5 husbands, stole all of their fortunes, and somewhere along the line came to own the mansion which she ultimately died in and then ended up haunting the attic. I actually did an entire video, again, 2-ish years ago, about why I speculated the new Haunted Mansion movie, like this one, would be about Constance Hatchaway. Granted, some of my predictions were way off, like I predicted she was going to be played by Kristen Wiig, but I still think my instincts were right. I think Constance is going to end up being a very important character and a very important presence in this film. I'm not going to go any deeper into Constance's backstory, but if you are interested in that, I highly recommend check out my video on the subject. I'll link it for you up above and down below. But the reason I think this Roy Orbison song is so perfect in the context of the Constance Hatchaway mythology is because you could easily interpret the lyrics as being spoken, sung, or expressed by one of her victims. Somebody who was in love with her, somebody who married her and was ultimately murdered and then left to haunt the Haunted Mansion, being trapped in a house without windows, trying to avoid watching as she moved on to her next husband / victim, aka her new love. I love it. Okay, let's watch more.
This house has a way of playing tricks on you.
All right. I had to watch the trailer a bunch of times to actually clue into this, and I'm sure like die-hard Haunted Mansion fans picked up on this right away. But in that very quick shot where we're seeing the windows disappear, that is the room that is ultimately going to become the stretching room. You could tell because of the wallpaper, but one thing I want to draw attention to is that silhouette outside the window that disappears. That silhouette of a terrifying figure in a top hat. Who could that be? Let's watch on.
Oh my god.
Is anybody else seeing this?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay. There it is. The stretching room came on back. One, quick, sort of insignificant thing I want to point out is that we're really only seeing one of the 4 stretching portraits in this trailer. I think it's safe to assume all 4 of them are going to have a role in the movie. But what I find so interesting is that that one portrait of Alexander Nitrikov, the very dapper-looking gentleman who, when the portrait is fully stretched out, reveals to be standing on a barrel of dynamite. Yeah. Something I think is interesting is that the portrait we're seeing in this trailer, it's the same character, but it is not the same portrait that you see when you actually go on the ride. Now, it is possible that this was just a purely aesthetic thing. Maybe they wanted to veer away from the more cartoony look that those portraits have when you're on the ride in either Disneyland or Magic Kingdom, and they wanted to go for something that looked a little bit more true to a real-life oil painting. But the more interesting possibility is that the painting looks different because they're maybe emulating an actual actor who is going to play that portrait character. The reason I think that this could be happening is because when I was scrolling on IMDb, there are some actors that are listed as like Quicksand Man 1, Quicksand Man 2, and Quicksand Man 3, and of course one of the famous stretching room portraits is of those 3 guys who are slowly falling into quicksand. So if this means we get to see all 4 of those stretching room portraits brought to life, I will just be overjoyed, especially if we can meet the ballerina and the crocodile / alligator. Oh, can't wait. But more importantly, in this sequence, we are seeing the Hatbox Ghost. The whole thing with the Hatbox Ghost is that he's this terrifying ghost who wears a top hat and holds a hatbox. And his whole trick is that his head can disappear from his body and end up in the Hatbox. But what I want to talk about is that this is the ghost we've seen peppered in throughout this entire trailer. He's the first ghost that we see at the very beginning, kind of in silhouette behind that green light. And he is also the silhouette standing outside that window of the room that eventually becomes the stretching room. If you haven't been on Disney's Haunted Mansion ride, it starts with you in this chamber, and then a voice comes in and says, "Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Haunted Mansion. I am your host, your ghost host." And it's this disembodied voice that just kind of says, "Hey humans, welcome to this place filled with ghosts. And there's this famous line that says, you'll notice this chamber has no windows and no doors. You know it's famous because it's written on the back of my shirt. This chamber has no windows and no doors. So the presence of the Hatbox ghost outside that window before it disappears and turns that space into the stretching room implies, to me at least, that the Hatbox ghost is the ghost host. And most importantly, it means that the Hatbox ghost is the one who is making contact and communicating directly with the foolish mortals, trying to get their attention by trapping them in this chamber and eliminating the windows and the doors and making the room stretch and trying to get their attention. Why? Let's watch on. Right there, there she is, our queen, Constance Hatchaway. We see this absolutely terrifying ghost bride making her way down the stairs, trailing her murderous axe behind her. So, this movie is dealing with two key spirits, the Hatbox Ghost and Constance Hatchaway. There is this long-standing fan theory that the Hatbox Ghost was one of Constance's husbands and ultimate victims, and that she totally decapitated him with her axe, and that's why he's able to make his head disappear from his body into the Hatbox. There might even be this further fan theory that, she hid his head inside a Hatbox. I can't remember. Watch my video if you want to know. But I think that is the key to this entire film. The Hatbox Ghost is going to be the ghost who is terrorizing the humans, and then they think, oh no, why is this ghost haunting us? And then it turns out that they're trying to reach out to them to try to get them to band together to fight the ultimate evil ghost, Constance Hatchaway. I love this movie already. If it's not this good, I'm going to be really disappointed. Let's keep watching.
Be careful. Death lurks around every corner.
Alright, 3 things I want to break down from that sequence. First of all, we have the ominous shot of, was it Ben? I don't want to rewind. We have that ominous shot of one of the living characters looking down on 6 pre-dug graves. I think that's fairly obvious. There are 6 dug graves, there are 6 living characters. We have Rosario Dawson's character, we have the kid, we have the priest, the psychic, the scientist, and the professor. Obviously, all 6 of them are marked for death. Now, call me a purist, I think it would have been a little bit more interesting if they tied it into the ride by just having 1 grave, because then that means that only 1 living character is marked for death, because of course there's that famous quotable line about, I say it's famous and quotable, I can't tell you the direct quote, but it's something about how there's 999 happy haunts, but there's always room for 1 more. It doesn't have the same ring to it if they're always room for 6 more. Anyway, the next thing, and maybe one of the most exciting things about this trailer, is our first look at Moira Rose.
Won't you join me for a little stroll through the slice of paradise I like to call the town where I currently am?
Okay, obviously that's not Moira Rose. But does anyone else see it? As soon as she showed up on screen, I thought to myself, is this Catherine O'Hara as Moira Rose coming to get the ghosts out of the Haunted Mansion? Because that's the mashup I didn't know I needed, but I want. As it turns out, that's not the case. But, fun fact, Dan Levy of Schitt's Creek is apparently in this movie. Who's he playing? I don't know. But this character is Jamie Lee Curtis as Madame Leota, everybody's favorite disembodied head in a crystal ball. And I had to rewatch this trailer and screenshot this and investigate so hard before accepting that it was in fact Jamie Lee Curtis as Madame Leota, because she's a fully formed human. Madame Leota, I expected to see her in a crystal ball. I expected to see her like this. So, this means, well, it could mean a lot of things, but I think it means one of 2 things. Either this movie is going to be, in part, a Madame Leota origin story. So we're going to get to see her introduced as a human character, she'll ultimately die, and then end up in the crystal ball. Or, she's already a ghost in the crystal ball, and she just has the ability, because of maybe witchcraft reasons, that she can go into a human form to interact with the foolish mortals. Let's keep watching.
Other more powerful entities may come through.
Not on our watch.
Well, what are you gonna do? Seriously?
They're already dead.
You're gonna be deader.
Okay.
Alright, just a little tag at the end there. I appreciate it because, like, for such a terrifying trailer, it is nice to have a little splash of comedy, especially coming from the two comedians, Owen Wilson, as well as Tiffany Haddish. And this is like the ongoing struggle with anything Haunted Mansion related. Like I said earlier in the video, the entire franchise of Haunted Mansion has always hinged on this balance between scary and funny. Based on this trailer alone, I think it's safe to say that this film is fully committing to being a haunted house horror movie, and it's safe to assume that they are going to find those moments of levity and that element of comedy, that much needed element of comedy, through the cast. I think the humor is going to come out of us being able to relate to how these people are reacting to such a terrifying, ridiculous situation. And we even see a little bit of that with that exchange between Owen Wilson and Tiffany Haddish at the end with, like, what are you going to do? They're already dead. They're going to be deader. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's hilarious. And I love it. And the other thing that thrills me about this trailer is just seeing the important roles that both the Hatbox Ghost and Constance Hatchaway seem to be playing in this film. Now, I'm personally hoping that my theory is right and that it is about the Hatbox Ghost recruiting the foolish mortals to take down Constance Hatchaway. But even if I'm wrong, what they seem to be doing right about this is that they are treating Constance as an actual terrifying villain. I think just the nature of her being the ghost of a bride and the way that movies have been recently with humanizing villains, especially Disney movies, it would have been so easy for them to turn Constance Hatchaway into an anti-hero or into somebody with a tragic backstory instead of allowing her to be the villain that she is. Like, let female characters be villains. If Constance Hatchaway can join the canon and the lineup of iconic movie horror villains, like, that would just make me so happy just to see kind of Disney entering that space. You know, as somebody who loves Disney and wants to see them conquer every genre, I would adore that. Anyway, friends, with that, this concludes yet another episode of Teacup 4-1. Now, let me know in the comment section down below, what was your favorite part of the Haunted Mansion trailer? There were so many Easter eggs, there were so many references to the ride that I barely had time to skim the surface on because I wanted to focus on the things that I focused on. But let me know, what was your favorite part of the trailer? What did you catch that I didn't talk about? And if you want to be the first to know when I talk about more Disney movie trailers or just Disney in general, Shakespeare, Funko Pops, cats, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And if you haven't subscribed already, it is so easy. All you have to do is click on my face. Thanks for joining me again today, everyone. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees, and this has been the Teacup for 1.